Another way to make non-destructive edits to JPEG and TIFF files is by cheating Photoshop into using Adobe Camera Raw on those images. If I select a JPEG or TIFF, I can go in Adobe Bridge to File, Open in Camera Raw. Now I said cheating Photoshop because high-end photographers have been using this dialog for years. If an image was shot in one of the RAW formats, it automatically opens this when you open a RAW file. But on JPEGs and TIFF, if you just double-click them for Bridge, it opens Photoshop. I want to make a much better image before it even lands in Photoshop. My goal whenever I use Adobe Camera Raw is 2-minute or less corrections. But it'll take us a little longer because I'll be explaining it along the way. Here are my standard corrections. I start with exposure, then shadows, then blacks, and I'll come back and adjust some other settings. So exposure, just imagine you were developing in a darkroom, and you could expose for more time or less time and make the image lighter or darker globally. I think I like this a hair darker. I almost always go to shadows next. Shadows will open up all the detail in the darkest areas, really revealing a lot here in the background along the pier or in the wood down below. But I may not want to go that far. Maybe these details aren't paramount to the shot, so I'll let them fade away. I love the blacks setting for making the blacks in the image darker, which helps contrast. But I chose to do blacks first before contrast so you see what it does. So if I slide blacks to the left, it's not just lightening or darkening shadows, it's taking what it sees as black and making it darker. So to see before and after, I'll turn off preview and on preview. A pretty big change with just 3 sliders adjusted. Now, to finish this off, I might add a little contrast, but it helps to zoom in. At the lower left is a little plus sign to zoom in. And I'm careful with contrast on people, but the subject of this is an inanimate object, so I can go a little farther. So if I turn preview off and on, I could see before and after. To see contrast before and after, you can double-click the little triangle. That's without any contrast adjustment. It reset it. I'll slide it back up, and there, double-click, it's reset. I think I liked it between 20 and 30, but use your own judgment. Now there's another slider that actually does contrast. It's clarity. It does mid-tone contrast. Everything between light and dark, all the shades in between. So if I slide clarity up, which is giving those shades in between contrast, you could also slide back and forth to see how it's really helping out the water and all the other detail in between. In fact, I might want to zoom back out and play with clarity and see where it's impacting the image, and also play with contrast to see where it's impacting the image. They're similar, but clarity is mostly focused on the midtones, everything in between. In fact, you could see it does like an ethereal angel glow if you go far left. I call it the angel effect. But I'm really looking for all the detail in this object to pop. Before, after. I really love what Camera Raw is doing. The last thing I'll do is boost the vibrance a bit. So if I look at vibrance and the sky and this teal, blue-green color would be the best to see this on, I can double-click on vibrance to set it back to 0. As I slide it up, the sky is getting much richer, the reflection of the sky in the water is getting richer, and this teal, blue-green, aqua blue-green is getting more vibrant. But I don't want to boost it so it's really fake-looking, I just want them boosted a bit. Saturation is a lot more global and can really look artificial, so I rarely use saturation. Vibrance is a more subtle way to saturate or make the colors more vibrant. And you could finish off by experimenting with highlights, and whites, but they tend to be the most dangerous. It's very easy to lose a highlight or your white detail, so I stay away from them until the very end. I'm completely happy with this document. So when I hit done, it's non-destructive, it hasn't harmed the original image. This little icon lets me know that a Camera Raw adjustment was made. To commit to the Camera Raw adjustment, if you're going to be placing into a program like Adobe InDesign to do a brochure, you would double-click the image, hit Open Image, and here it is. And this is now my end file. And I had to end what I was playing with earlier, so I'm going to close that. So I want to save this in a non-destructive way. So I will choose File, Save As, in an uncompressed format, .psd, the Photoshop native format, and I'll add the word end to the end. You could make that your initials if you don't want to overwrite my file to see what I've done. When I hit Save and close it and go back to File, Browse in Bridge, now I want to compare the original, this is what it started as, my end correction, but I could also compare the one I did earlier today with layers. So I really like the overall detail and contrast of Adobe Camera Raw, and you could get everything in one spot and make big moves on the contrast, color, lightness, darkness, without having to learn about layers or do any layer masks or anything complicated. I find it just a beautiful interface. So give ACR, Adobe Camera Raw, a try on some of your own images. JPEGs and TIFFs can be done under File, Open in Camera Raw. PSDs cannot. So give it a try on your own.